Hello everyone. Let's start discussion on very important topic, and most of the interview will definitely ask you what is a work breakdown structure and it is the importance and what is a work breakdown structure. I'll give you the brief discussion on that. So whenever you are working as a business analyst on the project, so you have the different kinds of work or the tasks like analysis, requirement gathering, design, development, coding, testing to prepare the end user manual, RTM. So you need to break down each work and define them the certain duration or the period within that period you need to complete that work. So that's the work breakdown structure, and I'll explain you what are the tools and techniques and how to do the work breakdown structure and what is the work breakdown structure. So that thing we will discuss entire in that the video. So the objective of to creating the work breakdown structure is to understand how the work breakdown will look like and empower the business analyst to define and manage the communication with the project scope. So what is the project scope and how that project will move smoothly. So that's we will understand and how to do that thing. That is the work breakdown structure. So what is a work breakdown structure? So a deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition of total scope of the work we carried out by the team, project team to accomplish the project objective and create the request deliverable. So if we want to deliver some features or function to the production environment or the business, so that functions required to get from certain stages like requirement gathering, requirement analysis, design, development, coding, testing, if bug, then again development, again testing, and then the UAT testing, and then move in the production environment. So that's the each the work. If that there is the each work, and that work we will break down in the separate part, and that we do in a work breakdown structure. So I'll explain you that thing in upcoming slides. So key characteristics of work breakdown structure: it is an hierarchical, it is an deliverable oriented, 100% rule they follow, and the mutually exclusive. So first one is the hierarchical breakdown work into smaller tasks, more manageable and component. It should be developable. It should be, the testable. So we break down the huge tasks in the Scrum teaming. We have the Epic. In Epic, we will consider that the user story, and then user story we will consider the task. So task is look like a work breakdown structure, and deliverable oriented focus on what is produced and how it will be done, what how it will be done that thing. And the 100% rule, the work breakdown structure include the 100% of the work defined by project scope, and the capture all the deliverables what we need to deliver, what things we are considering in the work breakdown structure. So that's 100% rule, it should have. Then it is an mutually exclusive thing. Each element of the work breakdown structure should be distinct with no overlap in the scope. It should be, separate from the each scope, and it will cover all these things. And then we will do the analogy. Think of it like a detailed outline for the complex report and receipt broken down into the step and ingredient that contains. So it will be the structure way to do the work breakdown structure. Basically, we will break down the work in the detailed way. So why is work breakdown structure is crucial for the business analyst? Why the business analyst will understand, and each task he need to prepare the work breakdown structure? What is the important? So first one, it is the clarity of the scope. It is clarity of the time required to complete the tasks. They will provide the clear, ambiguous understanding of project boundaries and deliverable and its features on when it will be delivered, and it will give the thought when we will move that code or that features or function in the production environment. So that's idea we get from the work breakdown structure. And then the improve the requirement management, to manage the requirement, help the organization and categorize the requirements, linking them directly to the specific work package. It helps us to manage each requirement stage and how much effort it will take. So that helps us better estimation, facilitate more accurate effort, cost, duration, and estimate the breaking down the large tasks. So that's help from the work breakdown structure we get to duration estimation, cost estimation, effort estimation, to do the separate that thing, and it will help us to enhance the communication. Sir has a common reference point for all the stakeholders, reducing the misunderstanding, understandable them that the features or functions, and the what time they require to complete certain tasks. We will track the entire budget and risk identification. It is easier way, and it's help us to identify the risks and that assess the risks in granular level, to understand the risks, to take a action on that risks with the help of the work breakdown structure. Then the progress tracking enable the effort. It enable the effective monitoring and control the project progress against the defined deliverable, what we are deliver, what features we want to deliver, and what are their project, and how much time they require, how much budget we need to complete that. And it is and the foundation for planning to to complete the duration of projects. If we have the clear cut understanding of work breakdown structure, so we know when we are able to deliver the software, or we define the milestone or the deliverables milestone when we are working on the projects or the software project. So feed into activity definition, scheduling, resource planning, and budgeting, that helps from the work breakdown structure. So let's move on the further screens. So the key principles of work breakdown structure, and the 100% rule is the work breakdown structure must include all works and only the works. It should contain only and only works required to complete the projects, no more and no less. It contain the each work and the time, their budget, and duration. And the deliverable, it should be deliverable oriented, focus on outcome and product, not actions. User stories document instead of written stories. What are the document, how much duration to require to complete that. And then hierarchical structure, top down decomposition with each level representation or more detail in the breakdown. It is considered the mutually exclusive elements. Each component of the work breakdown structure should be distinct and not overlap to each other. So we should have the separate phases. I'll show you, how to do that phases. So we have the phase like the requirement gathering, where we only gather the requirement, then design, we only do the design, and then coding will only done in the coding, and then deployment will testing, and the final the production deployment support. So each task is a separate, and it is the independent and developable, testable tasks we do in the work breakdown structure. And then the level of details it should contain, decompose the work until the reach the manageable level, or the work of the progress, track each progress with the help of RTM, requirement traceability matrix, and where the cost duration can be reliable, and estimate the assign how much the time it require. And the code of accounts, it should be have the assign the unique identifier to each work breakdown structure element, and tracking and reporting it, and help to the teams to work on that. So that's the key principles of the work breakdown structure: the 100% rule, deliverable oriented, hierarchical structure, mutually exclusive element, level of detail, and the code of account. So the types of work breakdown structure, there are generally two types of work breakdown structure that follow by business analyst or the IT team. One is a deliverable oriented work breakdown structure, and another one is a phase oriented work breakdown structure. So in deliverable work breakdown structure, that organize around the major products, services, and result that project will deliver. We consider only the points is a deliverable. That is the final requirement, and then we track that requirement phase and that requirement timeline, or the cost or the budget required. For example, the project phase, major deliverable, sub deliverable, and then package, that is the deliverable oriented work breakdown structure. And then the phase oriented work breakdown structure, so organize work around the project life cycle phases like initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, closure. So each requirement will goes in that phase, and how much of the duration or the time or the budget required that phase to complete that requirement or that features or function. So that we track in the phase oriented work breakdown structure. Each phase then consists its own set of deliverable that's common for the BA scope, but can be used at high level to analyze these things. Then the next step is step to create the work breakdown structure. So I'll detail explain you what are the elements, what are the components we should consider in the work breakdown structure. So let's start with the project goal and the final deliverable. Before we are creating the work breakdown structure, so we should have in mind what are the project goals, what are the final deliverables, what are the project objectives, what are the in scope and out scope functionality, and then the high level L1 the projects itself. We start to doing the work breakdown structure and identify the major deliverable. So we prioritize the deliverable. What are the deliverable are high urgent, high important, less urgent, less important, and then we sort and filter that requirement, and based on the project scope statement define the primary outputs. What are the time require that thing, when we deliver that thing, so that we will include entire in detail in a work breakdown structure. Then the decomposition major deliverable. So then break each major deliverable into the smaller tasks and negotiable components, and it will it will be make sure that the each phase that task should be able to complete, and then finally we do the testing and production deployment. So then what sub deliverable component are necessary to create this deliverable, continuous decomposition until you reach the work package or the final the product that we use in the production environment. Then define the work package, the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, small enough to assign the individual teams, estimate cost, duration, time required, and manageable can be mentioned in the controllable, how it manage, how it control. So that's define the work packages for the work breakdown structure and has clear and start to end points, how much time it required. Then we will review and validations of the work breakdown structure. Does it order the 100% rule? Are element actually exclusive? Is the level of detail appropriate? Involve the stakeholder validation. It contain all the stakeholder validation, and it will be able to do work on that things. Let's discuss on the work breakdown structure element and example for the business analyst. So what are the elements or contained in the work breakdown structure, and that is related to the example of the business analyst. So first one is a project name. So we start with the project name. Let's suppose the example of customer relationship management system, or the order management system, or the human relationship management system. We are creating that system, so we define name accordingly. Then we will do the major pages and deliverable for each pages. So there is the project pages like the project management, requirement definition, solution design, development, testing, deployment, and training and support. And then we break down and we do the how much the duration will require the each phase, who are the stakeholder involved in that each phase, and what are their roles in each phase, so that we will do the project phases slides. Then let's important thing level 3 and level 4, that the BL specific documentation. For example, the requirement definition. So I'll give you the each elements and how to do in work in the that the work breakdown structure. So requirement definition. So first we will do the stakeholder analysis, in what how much time we require, identify the stakeholder, who are the stakeholder, then document the stakeholder profile, enter the that stakeholder detail, and conduct the stakeholder interviews and gather the requirement. And then we will also do the current analysis. So document the HAGIS and to be process. So how much the time required to understand the HAGIS process, how much the time required to consider the to be process, to create the document for the to be process, the proposed solution, then analyzing the existing system and identify the pain points, how much the duration required there, that. And then the futures definition, facilitate the workflow, define the to be process, how the proposed solution will look like. And then we work on the business rule, business logics that we are going to implement in the system to apply the business rule. And then we will use the requirement illustration technique to conduct the interviews, how much the stakeholder we involve to conduct the interview, how much the interview duration, what we gather. And then prepare the document like business requirement document, functional requirement document, wireframes, prototype, run on the groups, and create the service document to write down the minutes of meeting. to update that thing to the key stakeholder. And then we move on the next phase that we draw in the work breakdown structure is a documentation. So we will create the business requirement document, functional requirement specification, user story backlog, the use case diagram and description, how much duration or the time required, that we add in the work breakdown structure to create the work breakdown structure, and require the validation and sign off, review the session, stakeholder workflows, and obtain the formal approvals from the stakeholder. So how much the duration, how much time we spend that thing, so that we all these things we include in the work breakdown structure. So the tools that you will help you to create the work breakdown structure, and you will understand the work breakdown structure. So mind mapping software like xmind, Mindster, FreeMind grant the brainstorming and hierarchical structure, they these, and the spreadsheet like Microsoft Excel, Google Sheet, that is also you use, to create the work breakdown structure, to define the timeline each work. And we also prepare the Gantt chart, so that will help you, know how much the duration will help complete the each projects. And then the project management software, and the dedicated to work breakdown software like the pro, and then whiteboard, sketchy notes, and collaborative initial brainstorming session. And we will use this tool to create the work breakdown structure. So let's move on. The next thing is a challenging and best practices for BA, where while we are working on the work breakdown structure. So challenges are going to deep and shadow the finding the right level of details to understand, within that time. And whenever to creating the work breakdown structure, at that time business analyst it is and challenges to have idea or clear understanding to complete that features or functions, how much time it will require in each phases. Accordingly he or she create the work breakdown structure, and activity versus deliverable, confused tasks, and with outcomes, how much the outcome, what are the challenges faced by the developers, what are the challenges faced by the testers, what are the challenges we will face while doing the deployment in the UAT environment, production environment. Accordingly we will create the work breakdown structure and add these things. And it will help us to reduce the scope creep condition. I'll create a separate video for the scope creep. If you understand more on that point, so go and watch this video. Not adjust to 100% rule, and the lack of stakeholder involvement. So stakeholder are not interested to create the work breakdown structure, and to show there the works, so that the need of business analyst to create that and to complete each task in each phase. So to create the work breakdown structure, so you should follow that best practices that will help you to create the greatest the work breakdown structure. So collaborate, involve the project manager, technical lead, and the key stakeholder. Explain them its features and function, and how much the time they require, how much the budget we are taking from the clients to complete that thing. And the iterative collaboration work breakdown structure is living document. It will show, and it can be viewed by the each the team members, and understand this document refine. And it is understand involvement, visual representation, use the graphical work breakdown structure chart, and better understanding for all the team members, and show their the work structure. Keep it simple, easily understandable, easily to every stakeholder like a business team or the functional team will be able and see. And it is a very graphable or understandable for that, and it is not a complex. It should be understandable. Focus on what and why, 5 why, and 5W1H analysis technique to always ensure the element is deliverable. Version control, manage the change to the work breakdown structure effectively and actively. Then the conclusion from these slides. So we will do the work breakdown structure. Your the superpower. BA is a superpower. So the work breakdown structure is an indispensable tool for the business analyst, and it is a very important tool for the business analyst to track the work and record the work with the documented way, and be clarity, structure the control, and obtain the complexity, and word the project progress and requirements, to understand each requirement and their the phases and stages, and how much the time it required to complete each requirement. It will help you to reduce it will help you to save the cost, to increase the productivity of the team, to increase the enhancement. By mastering the work breakdown structure, BA can drive a more successful projects and deliver the greater values to the businesses, and it increase the business valuations, and it will definitely help the IT teams or the IT companies to create the work breakdown structure. So guys, if you have any questions related to the work breakdown structure, so please feel free to ask me. I'll be there happy to give you. Also, thanks for attending this seminar.